Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'll be reading my notes because that is how I memorize. So this is from the Urban Environments Unit. It's a case study on Addis Ababa and its urban infrastructure, how they deal with urban strategies, and whatnot. So let's get started. So, urban system growth, including infrastructure improvements over time. So Ghana, which is a country in Africa, has lost its mantle as the African economy, likely to grow fastest this year, to Ethiopia, which has held the position for most of the past decade. And according to the IMF, Ethiopia's fast growth is largely being displayed in its capital, Addis Ababa, with many people rising from extreme poverty. So if you don't remember what extreme poverty means, it's basically you're below the poverty line. So there's like poverty lines in each country, but there's like a world poverty line, which is like if you make less than $2 a day, you're in extreme poverty. And you lack fundamentals, necessities, and all that things that contribute to a quality of life, like a better quality of life. Okay, and again, let's talk about Addis Ababa more. It is one of the fastest growing cities in Africa and is prospering with direct foreign investment, so investment into the country from foreign nations, from China, like mainly, and technological revolution that the government hopes will help the country to break into the MIC category by the year 2025. So Ethiopia is not a coastal country. It's like almost a coastal country, but then there's this like really, really small country called Djibouti, which is like blocking its way to the shore, and it uses their ports to export and import products and services from foreign nations. And that like port and that railway station that leads to the port was funded by the Chinese. So, you could see the FDI from here. And it's cool to note that actually in Addis Ababa in like 2023, the population was about 5.4 million, which increased by 4.46% from the previous year. That is a lot. Thinking that some countries, most HICs, are like struggling with growing that much. Okay. Now let's move on to Addis Ababa. So this is a statement brought out by them. Our goal is to end poverty and hunger and to achieve sustainable development in its 3 dimensions through promoting inclusive economic growth, protecting the environment, and promoting social inclusion. So, what do you mean by economic growth, right? So economic growth is not like economic development. Economic growth is really, really based on monetary assets and monetary funds, that you're trying to increase that. And economic development is more like improving the quality of life and, improving people's well-being. So yeah, they want to, promote economic growth, protecting the environment. So that's all to do with sustainability and resource uses and whatnot. And promoting social inclusion. So this may be in employment, inclusion of like marginalized societies, marginalized groups, people in slums, these informal settlements, because they have so many of them. Okay, so just to reiterate, because it's really good to, stick that information into your mind, Addis Ababa, Ethiopia's capital city, as a major recipient of Chinese investment, primarily in infrastructure projects. Chinese companies have constructed the city roads, completed the metro light rail system, and are building mega commercial buildings, a modern stadium, and a luxury apartments. It's plural, so many of them. And China is also responsible for the Addis Ababa airport expansion and the Addis Ababa Djibouti railway, which started operations in 2016. Okay, I'm trying to search up something on my phone right now. Yes. And because of all these kind of like, infrastructure projects, Chinese loans constitute about half of Ethiopia's 28 billion in foreign debt over the past 25 years. So you could just imagine there's a lot of debt going on. Yeah. And of course, it's not just China. The European Parliament has approved over 380 million in loan agreements for infrastructure projects in Addis Ababa, including roads, road construction, and electric grid system upgrades. But the thing with these Chinese investments is that they're doing so much. And yes, it is still expensive, but it's relatively cheaper than others, I'd say. But the quality itself, the quality of these roads, the quality of these transportation systems are poor. That's why even though they make these roads, they have to repair it soon after completion, because 1 week later, oh no, the roads are cracked. 2 weeks later, oh no, the whole entire highway is cracked, and they gotta fix it over and over again, which is just like taking money in a cycle. Okay, so now, from this we can conclude that they must manage high debt and maintain equal distribution. Yeah, exactly. And I don't know where I got this from. This is probably from a video I watched. Ethiopia's status as the fastest growing with a predicted growth rate of 8.5% according to the IMF. And I know I didn't mention this earlier, but the IMF, again, is the International Monetary Fund, and they're an international organization that promotes global economic growth and financial stability, encourages international trade, and reduces poverty. So that's what they do. This is a global organization. So the country's vision is to build a modern and inclusive economy through aggressive government and private sector investment. Yeah, right here. Yep, achieving double-digit growth for the last 12 years is also good to note. And it is evident through the construction boom in Addis Ababa, thanks to China's FDI, and becoming more international. Yes. You should actually search up what Addis Ababa looks like. When I first thought of, Addis Ababa and Ethiopia, I didn't really know what it actually looked like. I thought it was just a small city, but it's actually a really large city. So it's really interesting to look at that too. And yeah. Oh, and this is a counter-argument. Not counter-argument, but it is something that is a con, and it's still a problem in this country till this day, that people are not getting out of poverty fast enough. Yes, they're leaving extreme poverty, but it doesn't mean that everyone is out of poverty. Okay, so now let's look at the infrastructure they have built, infrastructures. So the first one is railway, that I have mentioned earlier. So this is made by China. It's a $4 billion project. Was built by the Chinese Railway Group and the China Civil Engineering Construction Corporation, and financed by the consortium of Chinese banks, including the Export-Import Bank and the China Development Bank and the Industrial and Commercial Bank. Yes, China has provided about $12 billion in loans to Ethiopia since 2000. So Ethiopia's main trading partner for exports and imports. Yeah, that relation with China is really good to know. And you might think, wait, what kind of possibilities might this have for the future? Because you're building a railway system, how does that impact the economy? How does that impact neighboring countries? Well, in the future, the line may extend further, 1,300 kilometers to Sudan and South Sudan. Okay, so let's look at another one, which is water sanitation. So it's another form of infrastructure. So this is relatively high. This relatively high rainfall is due to the intensity. Yeah, they have a lot of rain there. And, they have to save the rain, but they can't really do it because they don't have the source to do so. So, and, sometimes they do drink the rain, but, it's really poor, and there's a lot of germs in there, and it's not something you want to typically drink. Yeah, and there's mismanagement of waste and the poor condition of sanitation, and as it spreads disease, related to poor water, and there's also like ground pollution as you like put like toxic waste on the floor, sinks into the soil, not good. And untreated water just in general, not good. And this is killing a lot of people. This is not good for them. So a lot of these little NGOs and NPOs are coming into Ethiopia, building these oh my goodness, I cannot talk today. Building these little tanks where they kind of fill in water and purify it and whatnot. It is very long, and I really don't want to read it. You can read it yourself. There's a lot of information on here. But yeah, if you're talking about Ethiopia and the infrastructure, I'm pretty sure, no, most definitely you should mention water, like sanitation infrastructure, because I think this is very crucial, because this is one of the things that without this type of infrastructure, the casualties and the mortality rates would still remain high. But because society is realizing that sanitation is a problem, well, like in Ethiopia, they are realizing that, oh, sanitation is also important. It's good to, drink purified water. It has reduced death rates by a toll. Like, so many people are still alive today because of, these initiatives. So it's really good to mention that as well. Okay. Yeah. And, the thing is, it's kind of sad because this country has enough water. They have sufficient water. It's just the water is, like, not really clean. So, it could do a lot of good. Okay. That's not really good at explaining. Okay, let's look at telecommunications. So, if you don't know what telecommunication means, let me explain it to you right now. Okay, so telecommunications is basically communication over a distance by cable, telegraph, telephone, or broadcasting. Not sure if telegraph still applies now. Maybe it does. It's just an exchange of information over larger distances. Like, it's a broad term that includes various sectors, but all include a transmitter and a receiver. So just online things, 4G, that's something all of us should know. Okay. Well, good news. In Ethiopia, they launched 4G internet. Before they didn't, and before the number of people that actually had access to the internet was like a single digit, like in terms of percentage. But now, quite a hefty sum uses the internet and has an access to a mobile phone. So that's great. Yeah, you can look here in January 2019. So we could just assume that, it's 2024 now. This is like doubled is a bit too much, but much more than this, I assume. So from like 2019, we could see that, 16%, 63% have a mobile subscription. So it's getting there. They're getting global interactions. They're having global interactions. Maybe they're not moving physically, but they're still gaining that global interaction. They're gaining global ideas, observing global ideas, and they can, exchange, which is a really good thing. This is like kind of a 16 marker synthesis kind of thing. So you can leave that for later, only if you're an HL student. So, yeah, but unfortunately, Ethiopia's telecoms run as a monopoly. So if you don't know that, economic students, you should know this, but a monopoly is basically like, how do I explain it? It's like a company, or it's basically like a company or an industry that has exclusive possession or control of the supply of trade in a commodity or service. So there are something called a price maker, where they set the price themselves. For example, if you buy a strawberry at the farmer's market, if some farmer sells their strawberry for like $10 and the other farmer sells them for $5, but they're like the same quality, no one's going to buy that $10 strawberry. They don't have the power to become price makers. But then, for telecommunication companies, like, there's only one. well, like, in Ethiopia, there's like only like one or two. So what's the point of making them cheap? Just make them expensive. So that's basically what a monopoly is. And they launched a 4G mobile service to catch up with the high-speed communications available in some East African neighbors, such as Kenya and Uganda. And actually, in like entirely, Africa's telecom industry is booming. More people in Africa, like the continent, is using the internet. They're getting subscriptions, they're getting their 4G, they're communicating to, foreign nations, neighboring countries, their friends, and whatnot. Okay. And once again, China, like Huawei, why did I say it like that? Huawei and ZTE, which is the Chinese, telecom company, has expanded their mobile infrastructure to, Ethiopia as well, throughout Ethiopia as well. So, yeah, a lot of Chinese investments here. Okay, and this is something very, very interesting about Ethiopia's government with the use of telecoms. So the Ethiopian, excuse me, I cannot talk. Okay, so the Ethiopian government should immediately lift the shutdown of internet and phone communications in the Oromia region. This is taken from a source. So what essentially happened in Ethiopia was that there was there was a lot of rebellion happening towards the government, and the government was like, I don't like that. So they used that opportunity to actually shut the Wi-Fi down. They shut it down, and it stopped working. It's basically no cellular service anywhere within that country. You can't get internet. And this was a huge problem. It was for 2 months, and it really stopped families from, communicating with each other. And of course it disrupted life-saving services and all those things that are really crucial to someone's life. But because they didn't have internet, they didn't get access to those things. So yeah, it's like a violation of human rights. And this thing I highlighted here is really important to note. So international human rights laws protects the right of people to freely seek, receive, and provide information and ideas through all media, including the internet. Security-related restrictions must be law-based and a necessary and proportionate response to a specific security concern. A lack of government transparency regarding communication shutdowns and their lengths invites abuse. This is really interesting to read about. So I'll put a link down below of the article that I read, which I took most of this information out of. Oh, that is it for my video. This is about it. This is all the research I have done on Addis Ababa and their infrastructure, their growing urban city, and what kind of infrastructure they are investing in and what kind of infrastructure is helping them, expand and improve their economy and also create challenges. So thanks for watching, guys.